In today's project, we're going to create a logo using Canva. I've put the assignment in Google Classroom, so click the assignment here. It says create a logo in Canva. Rather than reading the instructions, I'm just going to describe it to you. We've used Canva in the past, so I'm just going to click on this link right here at the bottom. This is a template that I've created specifically for this assignment to make it easier for you to get used to how Canva works with objects and text. So this is what the screen looks like when you first open up the file. The first thing we're going to do, you'll notice it says viewing up here at the top. In order to be able to edit it, you have to click on File, Make a Copy. This is the convention that we're going to use to name files. And so I've put it up here so that you can see, this is the project name, logos. There's an underscore, which you create by holding the Shift key down and tapping the minus or the hyphen key on your keyboard. And then anytime you see a student, you're going to put your first initial of your first name in lowercase, and then immediately following an uppercase letter or a capital letter for the first initial of your last name. So again, whenever you see a student, you're to replace this with your first initial and your last name. The 8 in this case is an 8th grader in period 2. So I'm going to click on this text, and then I'm going to select all of the text in there by holding the Control key down and tapping the letter A. Then I'm going to copy this text by holding the Control key down and tapping the letter C. And right up here at the top where it says Copy of P, I'm going to select all of this text and paste in what I've just copied. Select this text and replace it with your first initial and your last name. So my first initial of my first name is J, my last name is Wing. I'm going to pretend I'm a 6th grader, and I'm going to change this to period 5 and hit the return key or the enter key on my keyboard. So now I have the name of the file here. But what I want to do is I want to share this with the teacher, or in this case with Google Classroom. So I'm going to select on Share, and this is really important, where it says only you can access. We're going to click this and change it to anyone with the link. Then we're going to tap this purple button that says Copy Link. Go back to Google Classroom. On the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to select Add or Create and Link. Click right here underneath where it says Link and paste it in by holding the Control key down and tapping the letter V as in Victor. Click on Add Link. Select Turn In, and then click Turn In again. The nice thing about using Canva for this type of assignment is, now that this has been turned in, I can close Google Classroom. I can also close this tab because this is the original one that I opened up, and just have this one thing open. So I'm going to click away over here on the left. Then I'm going to click here again to delete this text. I have to select the gray area or anywhere other than on the text. I'm going to click it one more time and then click on the trash can. So what I want you to do in this assignment is I want you to create 20 logos. And I'm moving these logos apart because we're going to create 5 pages of 4 logos on each page. You'll notice how I'm moving these around by dragging a rectangle around all of the objects until it selects them and then moving them on the page. You can also move them with the arrow keys on your keyboard, like this. Since we're going to need more than one page, since we only want 4 logos on each page, we're going to have to add pages. So the first thing you're going to do, and I'm going to assume that this student's initials are JZ, or let's make it AZ. Shift A for the A. I'm triple clicking on the letters with my keypad. And I'm just going to change all of these letters very quickly. Notice that they're separate letters. The significance of this is I can move them around individually and rotate them individually as well. So, what I need you to do is I need you to leave the letters white and also the background white. Since I want a different type of a layout between these 2 logos, I'm going to move the cursor until you see the rectangle or the square highlighted. And when I click on it, notice how this little circle pops up. I can rotate this around until it's a diamond shape and let go of the cursor, so that now I have 4 distinctly different logos. This one doesn't really look like a Z, so I either have to reduce the size of the Z or increase the size of the circle. Again, if I want to rotate things around, just to make for a more interesting design. One other thing I want you to notice on here, and one thing I want you to play around with is, notice how the white letters overlap the shapes behind them. That way it makes for a very interesting shape. This black shape that goes through here, through the logo, it's a much more interesting design than, for instance, I'm going to copy and paste one of these. So I'm going to copy this these text and shapes. I'm going to go down to this page and paste them. So what I don't want to see is I don't want to see the shapes with the letters just floating in the shape somehow. I really would like you to mess around with the rotation and the size of the letters so that they overlap the edges of the rectangle in this case, or the square in this case. So I'd like them to at least touch on one or the other side so that, again, it looks like it flows through here. Actually, I'm going to connect these 2 letters like this. I'm just increasing the size and the position of the letters so that they overlap in a very interesting way. And if you can't fine-tune it enough, by clicking and dragging it, use the cursor keys on the keyboard. If I want to size them both at the same time, I can hold the Shift key down, click on the second letter, and now I can increase the size of these letters at the same time. And again, I'm using the cursor keys on the keyboard to make for an interesting design. As I said before, one of the neatest things, or one of the best things about this application is that it saves it automatically. And since you've already shared this with me, you can play around with these designs all week long, and you don't have to send it to Google Classroom again. If I want to zoom in on this area because I don't like that this doesn't attach, doesn't align, I can pull this to the side and then drag the letter so that it lines up perfectly, this bottom of the Z with that part of the A. And it's still just a little bit off here, so I'm going to zoom in more. And then I'm just going to keep playing with it until I can get those lined up perfectly, or as close as possible. Because there's other applications where we can get it a little bit closer together and a little bit better defined. The other thing that you can do is you can color the shapes. So please don't color the letters, but if you want to color the shapes, just click the object. If you don't have a bunch of colors down here, you can click on the color wheel to create a new color. Choose any of these colors on the rainbow. Make sure though, see how the circle is down here on the lower left corner of this rectangle with this color is in here? Make sure that you click on the top right corner. And also that you make the colors more saturated. What I don't want to see, and let me duplicate this so I can show you the difference. I'm going to select these and copy and paste them. Control C and Control V. If you hold the Shift key over while you're tapping, it does it in larger increments. It moves it in larger increments. So again, what I don't want to see is I don't want to see colors that are not saturated. Meaning, I don't want to see pastel colors. Because you'll notice what happens here is that you start losing the boldness of the logo, and we want these to be very bold. So try and stay away from pastel looking colors and try and keep more bold, saturated colors. So remember, we're going to end up with 20 different logos. One other variation that you can use on here is you can do circles and ovals. So I've got this one that's already a circle up here. I'm going to select all of these by clicking a rectangle around it and copying it. Control C. Go down to the bottom page down here. Control V. I'm using the Shift and the arrows on my keyboard to move it around. Then if I want to create an oval, I can just squash it like this. And then from the corner, make it larger. So if you want to scale it, you use the corners. If you want to squash it left to right or top to bottom, use these handlebars in the center of the shape or the letter. Anyway, just play around with it, have fun with it. You can also make these letters or these shapes, if I wanted to do a slightly different design, I'm going to copy and paste this one, move it over here, and this time I'm going to do the oval standing up instead of laying on its side. Notice how when you rotate it, see the little rectangle that has the percentage in there? Or the degree of angle? Make sure that it's 90 degrees. And then I can move both of these to the left by holding the shift key down while I click on them. Just one of the best, or one of the things you need to be very concerned about is making sure that the letters can be read. Even if you're making them more abstract by overlapping them like this, it still should be easy to recognize that it's an A and a Z somehow, which is going to be the tricky part. And that's it. Just keep working on it. Mr. Stafford or myself will look at these and put comments on them. Since you've shared the link in Google Classroom, we both have access to them, and we can give you suggestions by putting comments next to your designs here on your files. So, have fun with this. Play around with it. We're going to play around with it for a couple of days. You can also notice down here there are gradients. Gradients are where it goes from dark to light. So this is a blend from a dark blue to a light blue. Have fun with it. If you have any questions, you can either send us a text message through Google Classroom, or you can talk to us in class.